Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator. And in this episode we're going to be talking about DIY or do-it-yourself cockpits and what it takes to get into it, whether or not it's worth it for you, what the advantages are, how difficult it has been, and what is yet to come. I'm going to be showcasing everything that I've done so far, the tools that I have, the features that I have included with this, and what my future plans are, and then show you guys also a couple of neat tools and tricks on how to get started with this, as well as giving you access to the STLs or 3D print files that I have already designed. So stick around.
If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below.
Overkill simulations, watch us as we fly. Overkill simulations, a thrill will never die.
All right, my friends. So if you have been following my live streams, I have been working on a DIY cockpit for quite a couple weeks now. We've gone through quite a few renditions. This is still a prototype that you guys are seeing here, but it's definitely starting to come together, and we're starting to get into a place where I'm starting to feel more and more good about it. So first off, I have a 3D printer. I have the Bamboo A1, which is that guy right there. I cannot say enough good things about this. So I'm going to start out with a 3D printer portion of this, you guys, so that way you guys can understand that you can get into this. And here's the reason why I'm saying that you can do this. I am not an expert at this by any means whatsoever. And a matter of fact, 3D printing was something that I started staying away from simply because it was too difficult. I had tried it a while ago with the Ender 3 or the Creality Ender 3 V2 Pro, whatever that darn thing was. And just in 2 years of effing with the darn thing, I think I got 2 prints to ever successfully work. And don't get me wrong, I know that it's probably a fantastic printer for those who know what they're doing and understand how to edit them, and understand how to configure them and have all the tools, and you know how to balance them, etc., etc., etc. Given just my lifestyle in general, you guys have heard plenty of times, I have basically 3 jobs. I am a full-time parent. You guys know how that goes. We don't always have the time to dive into those things. We just need something that is plug and play, and that is what that is. The Bamboo A1 is a fantastic printer that is basically plug and play. It took me about 15 minutes to get all the installation done on it, and after that, I mean, it does the bed leveling itself, it does the flow calibration itself, it tells you right out of the bat, right down to if the build plate isn't set where it belongs, it tells you. Now, talk about the pricing. I think right now that thing is sitting right around $500 US. Now, that's expensive. I don't have that kind of money to shell out right now. Again, going back to my previous situation, single parent, blah, 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 okay? So what I ended up doing is I did what was called Klarna. It just doesn't do a credit check. It does limit how much money you can spend in the first couple times that you use it. But what was really nice is I was able to put $100 against it every 2 weeks. So basically every time I got paid, it took $100 out until it paid it off. And it's an automatic withdrawal, but it was a perfect way to do it. No hidden fees, no interest. I didn't pay anything extra. It was just done. Okay? So that was a fantastic way to do that, and I highly recommend it if you guys are like me and on a budget and you want to get into this. The filament itself is actually really cheap, you guys. I get the Overture PLA, Turbo PLA, and it's like $13.99 for a full spool. You could print this entire set on one spool, okay? If you're not like me, you're not printing it 288 times. So now let's get into what these parts are. Each one of these parts is welded, and if you guys go back to my live streams, just go to my channel, select live, and you guys should see my previous streams. You'll see a bunch of DIY right down to the first one where I first started designing these, and then the second one where I was putting them together. There's one that actually says assembly, I think. And you'll see how you weld. You basically just take a soldering iron. You can use an old soldering iron, a new one, doesn't matter, but you get it good and hot, and you just run the tip. If you have 2 pieces here, you would just take your soldering iron and just run it along the grooves. and it melts it together. And then if you have something that has a gap, you can take some filament like you would a soldering rod. You just take a filament, like this is my filament if I'm holding it, and you just put it against your groove wherever your gaps are, and you just melt it down into place until it melts in. And so it's real simple to assemble this kind of stuff. And if you have a big enough printer, you can actually build a lot of this stuff in a single piece. But I had to break it up. Okay. And then the end goal is when we get to the final build, when I'm completely happy with everything I have, I'm obviously going to take all the electronics off, I'm going to sand it, and I'm going to paint it. And so all the white spots that you see here on the plastic, that's from the build plate. That's from the points where it got really hot. Okay. And so when it's all time, and like you can see up at the top there's some weird melting up there. That was where I cut the initial, there was a bracket that was holding the monitor on, and I had measured it too high. So the top bracket that was holding the monitor in was just barely holding onto it. And so I had to cut that piece off, move that slide down, and remount it. And again, I just used the welding method that we just discussed. Now, all of the gauges are done through Air Manager. Okay, same thing with the autopilot and the transponder, which you guys will see in action here in a minute. The GNS 530, that is from FlightSimBuilder.com. I highly recommend their products. In my opinion, for the price, they are the best bang for the buck. There are some people that are cheaper, and there are some people who are significantly more expensive. And this thing, I've had it now for, I think, 2 years now we're going on. I have used the you-know-what out of it, and it still works flawlessly. You guys will see that in action here in a minute, too. See it all come together. The displays. Let's talk about the displays now. This one is just a standard portable monitor, okay? It's a 14-inch, and I think it cost me right around $60 US. You can see the ports. I intentionally wanted ports that were on the side. That way I didn't have to worry about how I was going to manage the cables with it sitting on the cradle. You guys can see this is the Moza 210 force feedback base. You can see that gap there that's coming right along there. That's going to be resolved. I still have another piece, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, that's going to go here when it's all done, and that should bring the weight back down. It's actually the cabling right here that's causing it to pull. So rerouting the cabling and doing some adjustments will cause that to lift up and be fine. So don't stress that. But the cradle is, again, matched perfectly to the 210. So that's fantastic. All my landing gear handles and a bunch of light switches are already attached to that. But again, we're going to do something over here that you guys will see later on next week. I've already got the parts ordered. This one over here is a 7-inch touchscreen, and this thing cost me a whopping $40, I think it was. So between the two screens, we're right around $110. Okay, really not bad. Total cost in filament, if I was building this for the first time, remember this is a prototype, it's the first time I'm doing it. You'll probably go through this too if you're designing your own, keep that in mind. But so total cost in filament, to be completely honest, I've probably gone through 3 spools. So let's call it an even 15 each, and let's call it $45 in filament so far. But with that being said, that's the 3rd spool, and you can see there's still a ton on it. So we're being more realistic, we're about $30 US for filament so far. But again, that is, for example, the cradle with that spacer right here. Okay, you guys can see that weld line. I had to slice it so that way I could print it in 2 separate pieces because it was too big for my build plate. Those 2 pieces right there by far are the most filament, because that's just a big block. I just needed it for balance and spacing, so that way I had something to weld this stuff onto that was going to be sturdy enough where it wouldn't flex. We obviously want it nice and sturdy, and I'll show you guys how strong it is here in a minute. And this is just standard PLA. You don't need PETG, which is obviously a bit more expensive. But if we were building this for the first time, like if I knew what I wanted, I knew what I was doing, I had it, build it, I could do it all on a single spool of filament. So if we were doing that, let's throw some errors into place here. Now we're at $40. Let's call it even 150. An even 150, and you've got the 2 screens, you've got the framework. Now let's get down to your throttles. Okay, this is the Gear Falcon TPM, or throttle prop mixture. Okay, for TPM. Now, let's come back to this for just a second. With the GNS 530, you can get another touchscreen, maybe a bit bigger than this one. This is only a 7-inch, so maybe go with like a 10-inch touchscreen. You can make a frame for this, make it vertical if you wanted to, and you could do the GTN 750, you could do the GNS 530, and then controlled through Air Manager, you could simply swap them out to what you wanted, and then instead of all these buttons being physical, they would just be on a touch screen like you'll see down here, which works perfectly well. And the nice thing about Air Manager is it automatically refocuses the simulator, so you don't have to worry about it pulling your mouse away. So if we make a change, which you guys will see later, to the transponder or the autopilot something, it will, once I'm done letting go, once I've taken my finger off, it'll refocus the sim as the Windows focus point. So all said and done here, guys, right here, these are probably the two most expensive pieces. Well, obviously the Moza, right? But this guy here is, I want to say, right around 150, and then this one here was right around 300. So, but that could, I think that price has changed. It's been a while. But my point in bringing all this up to you guys is that all these tools and all these different flight instruments that we have, they're so cool, they're so much fun, but getting a way to mount them all to your custom rig. I mean, this is the DOF Reality H3 motion platform, okay? And so getting it to a position where I could very easily, swap in and out between driving and flying, getting it in a design point where I can use it effectively here, there's not a whole lot on the market that I could buy that's going to give me this the way that I need it. I mean, especially matching with the Moza, and you can match this stuff to anything that you want. Now, to show you guys how easily this comes off, this literally just sits here. So I could take this, let's go from here, and it literally just pops right off. And you can see, again, the cabling is something I have to be concerned with, so I'm not going to go much higher, but then it just slides down. And when I get some weight over here, and I'm also thinking about using like a Velcro strap on that side to pinch it, that's how it actually sits, okay? But like there is no flex. Like this, there's a little bit of flex, but it's welded here, and it's welded on the back with some of the gapping filled up with that filament I was telling you about. This spacer was just here to fill the void, just to put something there. You can see we've even got the curves matched up here, which I was really happy about. The first prototype that I did of this, it was just a square box, and it fit nice, it held it tight, but obviously you had at each one of these corners there was a big old gap because these are rounded on the TPM. So got that all squared away, and so now let me go ahead and show you guys this thing in action because I'm really excited about it. It's been a lot of fun building this, so let's get a little bit closer. I'm not going to go flying today, but I do want to show you guys how neat it is seeing all this stuff come to life. It's really been a lot of fun. So let me get the electrical power turned on the aircraft. For that, at the moment, I still have to use the mouse for this, but it'll still be just as fun. So there's the battery. Let's get that avionics master on. And I also do need to pop out that screen. I just realized I haven't done that in this round of the simulator. And then here's the nice thing about this guy, by the way. I gotta find my mouse. Where's my mouse? Where are you? There it is. There's the mouse. Alright, are you there? Can't tell if it's there or not. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. There's the mouse. Let me get that all locked in. A simple full screen. And we're right where we need to be. Alright. So now let's show you the fun stuff, I guess. Now the autopilot panel you guys can see that I'm using isn't necessary for this aircraft. I'm trying to find a sort of a good combination. Some of the gauges you can see are from the Baron. If we go up to the Baron here, you can see some of them are Baron and some of them are not. Okay, the RPM or the manifold pressure and the RPM gauges are actually from the Cessna 414, and the reason why I picked those is because they are dual needle gauges. So there's a needle for the left engine, there's a needle for the right engine, but I don't have to worry about losing any space for the gauges. Now this is set up for a piston design. The reason I have these for is eventually I want to do the same thing for a turboprop where we can have our inlet temperatures, turbine temps, and torque and all that jazz. So it's really cool. Oh, you know what? I think I stopped SPAD. Hang on one second. I'm on a roll here, guys. I'm on a roll here. Alright, so now to see everything in action. There's my GNS 530. Going to work here. GPS activity still needs to be adjusted. Transponder, let's go ahead and turn it on. There we go. If we want our VFR, boom. And then, like for example, I know you guys can't see it, but I've also got the PU Air Korea overhead panel. Flip some lights on. You can see that's working down in the sim. Light switches are up. So we got a full cockpit coming together here with a relatively easy design. Transponder works just perfectly, so if we get a squawk code 5332, I don't know, just throwing some numbers out there, everything you're seeing on the panel is actually transpiring in the aircraft. And then, I mean, if you want to, take your transponder, turn it off, put it back on. Our altitude target, you can set our altitude here. For the vertical speed, this is actually kind of cool. You highlight the box and then drag it up. So I like the way it does that. It drags slowly, and you can do the same thing with the altitude. Oops. That happened because I took my finger off of the screen. But you guys get the idea. But this is, and I still have some tweaking to do with this. So I have to change the way the camera function works because it's using the drag, and I have to change that. So we're going to adjust that. That's not a big deal. That's just a settings configuration within the two sims. Oops, I think I just turned it off. I did. There we go. Oh no, actually we have a dead battery. That's what happened there. We have a dead battery. Ay. Good old black square. But anyways, you guys get the gist. And I really hope that you guys are seeing the value here. I really hope that I'm showcasing that well enough. I hope it inspires some of you guys to consider building your own cockpits. It's been a ton of fun. It's a lot of work, and it can be a little frustrating. I'm not going to lie, you know, learning all this stuff. So let's talk about some of the tools that you can use. The things that you're definitely going to want is a pair of calipers. I recommend at least an 8-inch set, as well as a 12-inch set of calipers, possibly bigger depending on what you're measuring, but the 12-inch seems to cover most applications. For your design, there's a free software. It is very basic, but once you figure out how to manipulate certain shapes to do what you want them to do, there's a lot of combining, and some of the more advanced softwares could do this a lot faster, but again, there's obviously going to be a larger learning curve. But that software that I use is a free web page called Tinkercad, and it works fantastic. Again, make sure that you guys check out my live streams where I have the DIY builds, especially that very first one. In that very first episode on the DIY build, you guys see me do this literally from start to finish. I started it from scratch with you guys, and it's all there, so you can sort of follow in my footsteps, if you will. But I really recommend that you guys take a look at these options, and here's why. My reasoning for wanting to do this is, A, like I was saying, if you're like me and you have a build that is, well, let's call it not exactly normal, okay? My functionality is a lot different than many others in the aspect that I need it to be very diverse. I need my build to be very flexible. I need to be very easy to swap between driving and flying in my particular situation. And I just need to be able to obviously swap out multiple pieces of hardware. The next thing that I'm going to do with the yoke, I'm going to use that same cradle, and with the WinWing Boeing panel, or the PAP3, I'm going to make a mount so where the autopilot panel, or the MCP, goes right on top of it, and we're going to have the Boeing CDU right down here. And so, you know, it's going to be set up for a commercial build. For throttle, I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that. My next big thing that I want to figure out how to do is I'm going to try to figure out how to do a mount for the Bravo. The problem with the Bravo is it's just so freaking big, right? And that's, you know, the nature of a design like that. I mean, when you have something as functional as the Bravo is, that's to be expected. That's a big piece of equipment. But anyways, so, you know, you can create these things to do whatever you want. And at first, you're probably going to do the same thing I did, and you're going to make something rather basic. Okay, but my next ideas, I mean, like ever since I started learning how to do things as simple as a radius, right? New ideas are coming in my head. New what's the word I'm looking for? Ideas. Sure, we'll just stick with ideas. New designs are coming in my head on how I can make it look much cleaner, much more effective. You know, possibly taking these two panels here and doing a vertical kind of build here. Maybe moving the throttles over. I haven't quite figured all that out yet, but you know, there's a lot of different ideas that are now running through my head based on all of this. And I hope that you guys do the same. With as expensive as everything is right now, with the expensive as things I think are going to get, I think it's going to get worse. I'm sure you guys do too. You know, I don't think we've hit the calm before the storm, certainly. So I think that there's still a lot more nonsense to come. And please, 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 please keep the politics out of it. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. I love you all. I don't care red, blue, pink, brown. I don't care. I'm just speaking to the facts of what's coming, and we all know. And I want you guys, like myself, to be able to continue to enjoy this hobby and this passion that we all have. The flight sim community is a very niche group, and we're a very tight-knit group. We're very passionate about this. And I'm just trying to find new ways to share with you guys on how you can really broaden your flight sim experience without breaking your bank. The touch screens are the big kicker. Now, I know what many are going to say. They are not as realistic as, you know, the real thing is. But I'm going to throw another one at you guys. You can make, if you want to get deep enough into it with a 3D printer and different rubber components, you can make pieces that will actually be a physical button that will also interact with the touch screen. They do make certain rubber pads that will count as a finger touch on the touch screens. That you can purchase those. You can purchase that rubber and it will work. So there's a lot of different methods you guys can go through with all this. My next step right out of the gate is I'm going to figure out how to do encoders such as, or I should say dual encoders such as Knobster. I'm going to figure out how to do a DIY build of that. Share that with you guys. Figure out how to do that, because as cool as Knobster is, $100 for that unit, in my opinion, is ridiculous. It just is. I don't think it's cost $100 in parts, much less $50 in parts. But who knows? I could be mistaken. But anyway, you guys get the gist. So now for my STLs. If you guys are interested in any of these STLs within the next day or two, and I'll make an announcement on my Discord. Make sure you guys are following me on the Discord. There is a link down the description below in any of my videos to the Discord channel. I'll also be making a video when I come up with the final releases for them, but I will be putting these on my Patreon shop. They're not going to be expensive, guys. It's just really just to help me pay for the filament at this point, because I'm going to keep designing. I'm really, you know, I've got all this equipment over here, you guys, that I want to, you know, figure out how to start integrating, and there's many more things coming. So, you know, I want to be able to show you guys how to really expand this stuff. So I'm going to be designing different convenience items for it, different mounting options for a lot of this stuff, the FCPs, the MCDUs, touchpads, iPads. I mean, I'm really going to go crazy with it. And so as I start building that that library, you know, obviously it's going to be a lot of filament, but so we're talking, you know, when these are up on the shop, for example, if you want to just buy the cradle, you know, that would be like, you know, $3 or $4. You know, I'm not going to be charging an exuberant amount. It's just, again, to sort of upset the cost there. But anyways, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you guys some things to think about. I really recommend that you guys research into this stuff. It's not as hard as it used to be. The 3D printing technology has become significantly easier than it used to be, and I think you could really find yourselves having a lot of fun with this stuff if you decide to get into it. So, as always, guys, stay safe and healthy. I'll see you in the next one. Take care until then.